Hello, everyone. I hope you're all happy and healthy along with your respected families wherever you're located on this God's green earth. There is a ongoing debate and deliberation among the Afghans, Afghan diaspora, Afghans inside the country, particularly Afghan Americans and Afghans in Europe and other countries about the type of solution or a pathway that could take Afghanistan out of the current crisis, the crisis that Taliban terrorists are in charge, and there is significant level of presence by other terrorist groups from around the world who are all determined collectively under the umbrella of the Taliban and alongside with ISIS-K and Daesh to attack the U.S. interests and Western interests in the region, as well as around the world. And we can see since the recapturing of Afghanistan by the Taliban, the level and number and magnitude of terrorist attacks across the region, across Europe, and across the world. And so, what type of a solution or a pathway could Afghans agree upon in order to get out of the current crisis? A crisis that more than 20 million Afghan women and girls are practically in prison. They do not have the right to get out of their houses. They do not have the right to education, the right to work, the right to travel abroad, and the right even to choose their own clothing. And more than 40 million Afghans are basically leading uncertain lives inside the country and outside the country with no hope about the future. And of course, on top of that, there are crisis, economic crisis, and a humanitarian crisis, and all types of disasters, natural disasters, and others that are happening across the country that takes the lives of Afghans. And so, the two ways or two mechanisms that has been largely discussed. One is a negotiation with the Taliban or a path to reconciliation and settlement with the Taliban. Another path is resistance and fighting against the Taliban. Both of these approaches are having challenges or having issues and baggages with it. The first, the negotiation, Afghans have realized that the Taliban are not going to negotiate with other Afghans. They did not negotiate in their first regime. They did not negotiate in the last 20 years with Afghanistan's republic, elected representatives, elected presidents. And so they did not sincerely negotiate with the US and Western countries, and they're not sincere in implementing their agreements. And so they're not willing to negotiate with other Afghans. They're not willing to negotiate with Afghan women. And so there is no hope that we could pen upon negotiation with the Taliban because they're not ready to negotiate. And so this mechanism is basically a useless hope if we put it into those words for Afghans, and as such does not have much value among the broader Afghan community. Maybe a few individuals still try to hold on to this idea that there may be a negotiated settlement with the Taliban, and I think that those are generally two types of people. The first is, of course, the Taliban sympathizers, pro-Taliban individuals who are advocating this idea of negotiation in order to prevent Afghans to come together and agree upon another mechanism to deal with the Taliban. But of course, there are some who are only looking at it through their personal interest lens, and they think that maybe through a negotiated settlement they may have a position, or they may come back, or to be relevant, and so they're hoping that maybe this route could be chosen, or it could be better for Afghanistan. Of course, there are a large number of people who are not very many, but those who are, the majority of them, their only hope for negotiation and peace is because they are tired of fighting and conflict, and that's completely understandable, that they may not feel that any other route is out there except negotiation settlement to deal with the Taliban. The other mechanism or approach that Afghans are talking about is, of course, the resistance and fighting. And there's a strong, committed people on this side who are actually involved and engaged in resistance and fighting the Taliban around the country. One could argue about the feasibility of or practicality of the fighting, and whether that is the right mechanism that could lead Afghanistan towards freedom at this stage, due to lack of resources, lack of financial resources, lack of arms and ammunition and other resources, lack of political support, and of course lack of a centralized or even decentralized, but committed, coordinated leadership on the resistance and fighting with the Taliban. For as long as there is no political support and there's no financial and arms and ammunition support, the resistance will not be of much of an impact on the ground. And even if the resources are available, for as long as the resources are not dedicated enough to get rid of Taliban from all of the country, the fighting and violence will continue with no result in sight. And so a new discourse or a new idea is now being circulated among Afghans and among friends of Afghanistan, or among our allies that are talking about this, and the feasibility of this is the possibility of a national uprising against the Taliban. That if all of the political leaders and social leaders and activists and influencers and business people and community elders, religious scholars, mullahs, and men, women, old, young, if everybody could participate in this anti-Taliban wave that is being generated right now in social media and in mainstream media and in the political platforms and various platforms that Afghans have, that maybe this could lead to a much better and much more effective and efficient way of getting the Taliban out of power. That every Afghan could get out of their homes and by millions get out in Kabul, in Nangarhar, in Kandahar, in Mazar-i-Sharif, in Herat, in Bamyan, and all of the provinces around the country. If all the people could be coordinated to come out on simultaneously on the streets and block roads and prevent movements and basically bring the country to a halt, basically through a national civil disobedience, then it is very much possible that this 60, 70, 80,000 Taliban fighters, with whatever types of weapons and ammunitions that they have under their control, will not be able to withstand the movement of Afghans against them, and they will never dare to use their weapons or guns and turn it towards Afghans when Afghans move in millions. That is very much assured and guaranteed, given the nature of the Afghan society and our history, that when the people rise up, no force will be able to dare to withstand against them. And if they do, that would mean that they have been supported by one of the authoritarian regimes in the neighborhood, one or a few. And I'm very confident that in that scenario, the Western countries, the democratic countries of the world, they will stand on the side of the Afghan people. They will support the people of Afghanistan in their movement to free Afghanistan from the Taliban terror. And I think this approach is much more feasible. I hope that relevant authorities and decision makers in the United States, around the world, look into this possibility and evaluate this through their own lenses and capabilities, and consider that this is something that is going to happen, that they need to be ready for it, and by being ready, they could start by cutting off their relationship with the Taliban, cutting their aid to the Taliban controlled Afghanistan, and stop sending cash, stop sending support, and stop allowing them to travel around the country, enforce the travel ban, and get ready. The law enforcement entities in all of these countries need to be ready to move in and arrest these leaders and bring them to justice. And hopefully our friends of Afghanistan will move into this direction of taking the Taliban to court, and they will be tried, and they will be sentenced, and with that we will see the fall of the Taliban regime. So with that hope, God bless you, God bless Afghanistan, and God bless our world.